Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have David Su of Atmosic. David, it's awesome to have you on the show.
I'm very glad to be here.
Definitely super excited to have you on as well. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about David so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And David brings to Atmosic over 30 years of engineering expertise with an extensive wireless background, as his past team's radio designs have brought billions of successful devices to market. He was on the early engineering team at Atheros, the VP of Analog and RF Engineering, and VP Engineering with Qualcomm following the 2011 acquisition of Atheros. David earned a Ph.D. in electrical engineering from Stanford University and has been a consulting professor of electrical engineering at Stanford. David is also an IEEE Fellow. David, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, let's do it then. So to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, I guess by the time I got around to the company here, I've been with the semiconductor industry for about 30 plus years. And the last, more than half of it was with the company, as you mentioned earlier, Atheros. And the company was primarily focused on Wi-Fi in the early stages, being the leader in the area, branching out to other connectivity solutions. And during that time, we were thinking, a bunch of friends of mine get together, and we were thinking about what are the different areas that where we can make a difference. So one thing that came out sort of in a conversation is that one of the changes we see over the last 10 years or so is that more and more of our devices are now battery operated, because you no longer need to have a Ethernet cable to be connected. And people really don't want to connect a power cord when they don't need that anymore. And they're battery operated. And the net result is we are using more batteries than ever, and we are throwing away more batteries than ever, in a small part due to people who created wireless connectivity. So we are a little bit guilty by association. So then we said, okay, what can we do about it? There are some things we can do well. There are things we can't do well. We can design, and can we lower the power consumption, thereby extending the battery life of a product? And can we make it a battery that will last forever? So that is the genesis of what we thought. Yes, let's get together and do what we can. And 4+ years later, we are here and we have our first product.
Nice. I absolutely appreciate that. I think so many times that I always believe like some of the great stories in entrepreneurship and business is really asking, why does this do X, Y, and Z? Can this be done better? And a lot of times those questions kind of provide the basis by which really phenomenal businesses, organizations, inventions come from. So I appreciate you for, telling us the full story and reminding us as well that a lot of times because we don't see it doesn't necessarily mean it can't be created and it can happen.
Yes, correct. Yes. It's all very exciting.
Exactly. So could you drill down a little bit deeper and tell us a little bit more about your business, all the awesome things you all are working on, and how you serve the clients you work with?
Sure. But what we're trying to do in general is create solutions of two types. One type we consider forever battery life. The other type is battery free. And this is for wireless connectivity. And our first solution is based on Bluetooth technology, which is fairly widespread in the world today. So forever battery life, I would put it in the category, if you go to Home Depot, local store, if you're looking for a smoke detector, you can now find this version that lasts 10 years, completely sealed. So think of that category of product, but now make it connected, keyboards, mouse, and so forth. Something that have a battery life that will last the duration of the product. So that's first category of solutions that we are aiming to deliver now in the marketplace. The second category is battery free. The closest example today you see is that of solar calculators. Over the last 10 years or so, if you haven't paid attention, I was shopping for a calculator for my daughter. I think this is 5-6 years ago now. And I was saying, wait, what happened to all the battery operated calculators? They're gone. They are all solar, they're all battery free. That has happened. Now we can now add in connectivity to that solution as well. Just imagine solutions that are running a solar calculator or remotes. I think Samsung recently introduced a PV remote, beacon devices, keyboard again. You can imagine the category of product that you can deliver that can harvest energy from light, from motion, from RF, and so forth. So those are the two categories of product we're delivering now. And our solution will go be the core engine beneath that application.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. And I think so many times I'm glad you gave those examples, because I think so many times we can describe exactly what it is, but a lot of times we don't realize that the innovations or things that we're talking about are already seen in so many different ways in our lives. And when we start to look at that, we can ask, like, why can't that be done here? Why can't that be done there? And then in
Exactly.
true entrepreneurial form, start creating it.
Right. Exactly. The way I look at it is everything we do is sitting on top of, we are staying on the shoulder of giants.
There you go, standing on the
Yes.
shoulders of giants. I was about to say that. You're absolutely right. And so, what would you consider to be what I call your secret sauce? A thing you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique. It could be for yourself personally, or a business, or a combination of of them both.
Okay. Yeah. I guess from a company point of view, uh, I think we have a unique technology and unique product value proposition. To me, that secret sauce actually is a team that we have. We've been very, very fortunate over the years now to have people we work with and people we haven't come and join these crazy people trying to do this battery-free thing. That has been very rewarding, and I think that is the reason why we are successful, because we have a team of people who are very experienced and, in addition, very passionate in delivering the overall solution.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Crazy people doing this battery free thing. I absolutely love that, because it encompasses, like, to me, it speaks to like a culture, a mission, even at that, where a lot of times I imagine your team gets behind that, and everything that they do, basically helps to move the needle forward towards it being that. And when you have that strong mission, that's when you really start to make, really big dents in the universe.
It helps when everybody is rolling in some direction, as it were.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Okay. I think the one thing that I've benefited from and I really enjoy is having a what I call a collection of mentors and advisors.
Mhm.
And by that, it could be someone that is very distinguished, which we are very fortunate to have, as well as people that you work with on a daily basis. I'm a believer that you can always learn from people around you, and just pay attention, and people will be dropping very wise advice to you on a daily basis. So to me, that I think is probably one of the most meaningful ways that I felt like I can learn and grow. Obviously, the basic of books and so forth, I definitely agree as well. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you adding that in, because I think so many times we forget that there's different ways to have advisors, and it could be, listening to podcasts, it could be reading a
mm,
book. In addition to having those people, like, I guess, kind of on the phone, on that speed dial, so to speak, so
yeah,
that we can reach out to them, and be
mm,
able to kind of listen from them. But I think it's I always say, like, in business, sometimes you have to have a balance beam of having that ego to believe you can create something, but at the same time being able to take a step back from that ego, and to be able to learn from others and understand, and be able to stand on the shoulders of giants, as we said before, to be able to be successful in our organizations.
yeah, and as I was pointing out earlier, it's interesting that what you can learn from someone on the team or a casual conversation. It's pretty amazing in the sense that if you just listen carefully, there's so much wisdoms out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, so many gifts. And I think we often don't see too, like, we all have different gifts. We all have a zone of genius. And sometimes when you sit down and have those casual conversations, you can see somebody's perspective in an entirely different way. And it can
Right.
unlock so many different ways, in our business, in our lives, and so in so many different aspects of
Right.
our being.
Agreed.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. So this
Okay.
could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something, if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Okay. Okay. Something that I've benefited from, so maybe I'll start from there,
Hmm.
is that surround yourself with good people.
Hmm.
And to me, that's priceless. People that you can learn from, people that can advise you, that can tell you what they think for real instead of messaging it in a way that you may or may not receive it. So surround people you trust, they trust you.
Yeah.
To me, that I think has been priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a huge thing, and being able to have that environment, and as we kind of talked about it in many different ways, you can have those mentors and those people in
Mm.
place, and I think that if we can start to really kind of tap into that and create that environment, um, you become who you spend time with, and once we start to understand
I
that,
agree. I agree with that.
yeah.
You become more alike. So,
Exactly, exactly. So that's why it's so important to make sure you have that environment in place
yeah,
in order to be successful. And if we don't do that, then we could be not reaching our potential of what we're able to accomplish.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, David, what does being a CEO mean to you?
That's actually a very interesting question on what it means. Uh, I guess ultimately there's a lot of daily responsibility and so forth. Ultimately, I think the most important thing is be able to ask the question, what is possible? Meaning that, can we do this better? Would something else go wrong? Or looking ahead, is there something else we should be paying attention to? Because ideally, you have a team now running full steam, executing on multiple dimensions. So that is taken care of by and large, right? But everybody's got a heads down, executing. And as a job of CEO, you should at least help encourage what is possible
Hmm.
beyond what's right in front of our face.
I absolutely love that. And I think that as we kind of even talked about, in the very beginning with your story and those questions that you asked, to be able to ask that question, what is possible, and be able to kind of understand that and see that. And I think not be sometimes blocked by what we see in front of us, but start to kind of push the envelope, go against, the grain, so to speak, and create that for ourselves, but also our teams is so huge and important for CEOs or really everyone within the organization.
Everyone within the organization, I think it's important to always visualize what is possible. We may or may not do it immediately,
Mhm.
and but over time, what is possible can be a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like that's been a big part of it? And it sounds like, but definitely correct me if I'm wrong, from the culture that you've created as well, to having that what is possible that you've led the team with. It sounds like it comes into everybody that's on the team and creates that culture and that mission of what you all are creating.
I'll make one more thing. I actually keep a list of what might be possible,
Yeah,
and we
that's
adjust
perfect.
them over time. So because my memory is not as good as it used to be, so the
Mhm.
key is keep track of it. And yes, some of them are just crazy. You move them down the list, and yes, I think it's important.
Yeah, that's huge. And my memory has always been terrible. So that's such as life, but that's why we have and write things down, right? So
All
that
right.
also helps out with that. Well, David, I truly appreciate that. And I appreciate that reminder. And what I want to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Sure. The easiest way, obviously, if you go to our website, there's a fair amount of information about the company, and there's always links to reach me and others in the company as well. And I guess the only one comment I always like to evangelize on is that we are all consumers, and ultimately we have a lot of impact on what goes on in the world. And the one request I have for people is that when you buy something, remember the cost of ownership doesn't end at the cash register.
Mhm.
So I'll give you an example of LED light bulbs. Over the last 15, 20 years, I think that's been a good transition to us. It saves energy for the whole world. And along the lines, what we've been working on more recently is that when you buy a battery operated devices, do check out how long the battery life is. And it does make a difference to your pocketbook and ultimately for the environment for all of us as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I appreciate you for bringing that to life. For people that want to get a hold of you, find out more, what's the best way for them to do that? Is that to go to your
Our
website?
website is www.amazig.com.
Okay, perfect. We will have the links in the show notes as well too. But I love that reminder that you kind of left us with, because I think so many times as consumers we forget that we have a say with our dollars and the impact that we're having
Yes.
within our homes and our lives, but also in the world as a whole. And I think when we start to be a little bit more, I guess, aware and start to take those actions towards making the world a better place, then we start to make those decisions that are in line with that. And we have the ability to do that. So I appreciate that reminder tremendously.
And all of us can make a difference. Yes.
And all of us have ownership in order to do that.
Yeah.
So definitely appreciate that, David. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to you.